Oh, I don't know, but I'll ask.
What's that?
Yeah, I switched the lines.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. Thanks.
Well, I haven't seen you in a while.
All right.
Thanks. I'll listen to you later.
Okay, you're coming to me to Seattle. Game going there. Okay.
There?
Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. The first thing on the agenda is a bench proposal. Right here, okay, good. If you could step up to the podium, have some microphone.
I didn't realize you guys had to hook up to the computer, so I just checked it out.
Okay,
Brief slide presentation.
that's fine.
Thanks.
Was trying to do paperwork introduction.
Thanks for having me, Mayor Urban and everyone else on the board. My name's Ken Waits. I live in West Hampton Dunes, and I am here to talk about a project that I started about 6 months ago. Bench.
Keep the recording, just keep
It does.
Yeah, so it comes through in the recording.
Got it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a project I started about 6 months ago. I've been meeting with various towns to try to implement these benches, having a little bit of success early on. The idea is very simple. There's really not much to it. It's basically you use existing benches and you put a sign on the benches that says, "Happy to chat bench. Sit here if you are happy to have someone join you for a chat." Okay, so what's the point of that, right? The point of that is that it facilitates conversations between people in a community if they'd like to. And if you look at, and there's really not an easy way to do that. So this kind of makes it socially acceptable. If someone sits on the bench, they're saying, "Hey, I'm open to chat with anyone who joins me." So it takes away sort of the social stigma of approaching somebody and makes it really easy. All right. People can use it sort of as they're walking along and notice it, or people can use it as a sort of planned destination. All right. So it can work either way. And why a bench, right? Is the idea is that, that the lack of connection is really hitting our communities pretty hard. 79% of people under the age of 25 feel isolated. So it's really not just old people. 50% of people overall feel disconnected. Now, this is not going to solve everything, clearly, but there's this view that as long as you have family and friends, you're okay. But all the research shows that it's sort of the secondary interactions with strangers and people in your community, the casual talk with someone on the corner, someone in a store, that's equally important to make someone feel connected and to not feel isolated and alone. So that's what this does, right? It facilitates conversations between people. Now, it's just not for people who are lonely, right? If you look at one of the slides further in, the Washington Post article, slide 8 or so, it's about a woman who just started using one of these benches, and not because she was feeling lonely or isolated, but because she just wanted to talk to people. And she found that people use the benches just to share their views about things, to understand other people, to talk about their feelings to other people that maybe they couldn't even have conversations with. So it has all different kinds of uses. Some people go there just because they're in the mood to have a chat with somebody. It's just a place to go. If you really think step back and take a look, other than like going to a bar alone, there's really no place to kind of just have a conversation with somebody that you don't know. So that's the general idea. All right. And, it's free, obviously. The second slide is basically just, why do we need them? I touched on a lot of these points. I want to keep your time brief. Surgeon General just did a massive report on lack of social connection last year. And he said it's a public health crisis. And it's having huge impact. So this isn't like some sort of theoretical construct. This is based on actual, evidence that this is a legitimate problem. Okay. And lack of social connection in his report is equal to 15 cigarettes a day. So it's pretty clear cut of the impact that it has on people and their well-being. There are other impacts, money and education. I won't go into those. I touched the next slide. I touched on the secret sauce of the bench, that it's these interactions with strangers, not just family and friends, that really matter as much. The next slide, which is this slide, is just about putting this formula to work. It's basically straightforward. All I would need is permission from the municipality to put the benches in. I would handle everything else, the cost. We would discuss where to put them, obviously. I have some ideas. And then it kind of happens and people see it and it gets noticed and it works. And that's what's happening in other places. Look at the next slide. One of my big things, and before I started doing this, was, well, do people really care? Because if people don't care about this, then no one's going to use it. And like, so what, right? You can have a problem, but if people don't think there's a problem, it's not going to matter. But there's tons of evidence that people believe that a lack of connection is a problem and want to do something about it. And all my sources for all this are in the back of the presentation. So it's all based on research and data. It's not just my own take. Positive feedback, places that have the benches get great feedback from it. Research supports it, as I touched on, about conversation and connection with conversations. And then the proof is in the pudding, right? These benches started in the UK, and they've been spreading. There's some in Massachusetts, New Jersey, a lot of other countries in Europe, California. So people like them, and obviously people didn't use them and like them, they wouldn't be continue to be put in. The next page is just that article I told you. I'm not going to go over it, but it's a great read. I'll read you the last paragraph. From all the strangers I went to meet, I learned that chat benches are not just for the lonely, they're for anyone who wants to enrich their life. And from that beautiful little bench in the middle of a city, I learned finally that a few words on a plaque are all it takes to transform a bench into a catalyst for moving conversations. That's from July 25th, 24. And then the last two slides are really the no-brainer, what I call, to me, this is a no-brainer project for the town. It's easy, there's zero cost. You use existing benches. You don't need to put in new benches. It's easy install. Maintenance is really minimal, if nothing. It's a weatherproof sign that'll last 25 years. And there's no cost. I'll pay for the signs and any ancillary costs that come up. Then no-brainer part two. The next slide. Proven concept, as I touched on. It's simple, right? It's not a complicated thing. There's really not many steps involved. It's purely voluntary. So, 95% of the benches in town will still be regular benches. It's not going to box anyone out of using a bench, just sitting on a bench and not having people talk to them. It's non-controversial. There's no political agenda. There's no organization behind it that with some kind of, type of agenda or whatever. And safe. It's going to be located in highly trafficked areas. Obviously, it needs to be because that's how people use it. So it's out in the open and safe to use. So basically, all I need is the approval, pick out the benches, locations, and I would go and, I can attach the signs, or if you feel more comfortable having someone work with me to do that, that's easy. There's different ways to attach them depending on how you want to. So I think it's a great idea. I think the time is now to do this. There's really not not much else to it.
Matt, I have a question before I ask Ken the question. Do you know about how many benches we have that are not dedicated, They're all dedicated? Okay, so that leads to my question to Ken would be, the first thing that comes to mind is that this might be something we want to do for benches going forward with someone sponsoring them and opting to do a sign on their bench.
Mhm.
I am not one, this is it's an awesome idea. I'm really, really appreciative. And I'm not one to poke holes in anything. I'm just concerned about people who have paid to someone, whether they would, I mean, this is all positive, but you know, sometimes people can get, you know, so, being that, I didn't know it was 100% of them, but being that all of our benches have been paid for by donors, memoriam or, you know, dedicated to people. I would love to see this happen, but maybe just with, you know, benches going forward.
Okay. So every single bench has a plaque sort of on it already?
Right, and all the plaques are standard size, standard configuration. People tend to be possessive of those things, or, you know, essentially, they paid for the bench and the plaque and the placement was authorized by the village, and then we maintain it from that point on. We do have, I don't know, would be appropriate, a couple of Adirondack chairs in various locations that do not have plaques.
Single seated, is it
Start with a couple of Adirondack chairs or something like that. When we first received this proposal, one of the things that struck some of us is the size of the sign, because we do have these standardized size signs throughout the village.
Yeah, so the signs are, there's no, you know, I have a default sign because it makes me easier to go into towns and say it's ready to go, and people like that. But to the extent that the town has preferences in size and color and material, those are all easily handled.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
And then in terms of, you know, the barrier of, you know, I assume there's a wait list as well for people who, like any,
Yes, there's, plus the benches, we're having trouble getting exactly the same design bench. They're all teak and
right?
discontinued, so running into difficulty. Plus, the number of benches we have is substantial. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're not looking to add benches.
But the Adirondack chairs are in different waterside locations, so.
And they are grouped together, usually four in a grouping.
One group.
Yeah. I mean, I'm open to that. We just have to think about how that would work in terms of the language. It'd be a little more complicated to say sit here and then have someone else sit over here.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's texting each other.
yeah. No, so far I've been using pre-existing benches, but that's really something I've done in order to make it more palatable to the municipalities I've been meeting with. So from a cost perspective, I could absorb a new bench if that's necessary. But yeah, but there's no, you know, to the extent they're existing benches, it kind of makes sense to use them. But given the situation, if that's something that, you know, I know you already have enough benches, so it doesn't sound like you want to add more. So between that and the plaques,
That have should be interested in this though. So sure, you know, it's someone, love person that's whatever it is. I mean, they would probably want to see it go into good use. So I can't imagine. I don't know how you reach out to them.
Just send them a letter and
Yeah.
they'd be willing to
Yeah.
entertain that.
I mean, I all of them, but there's a lot of benches, but yeah, the ones that we know at least we can reach out to.
I mean, how many benches are there, would you say? 117?
That's not saying all.
Yeah, that's all you need. You only need a couple, right? Just have to be the ones in locations that are more suitable. Yeah, so you'd kind of hit those people first.
Main Street.
Yeah, exactly.
Let us work on, seeing how we reach out to the bench
Yeah.
donors,
Great.
especially the more recent ones, because some of them were donated years and years ago.
Right.
Contact
Mhm.
information.
Okay.
So, we'll work on it.
Sounds good.
Okay?
I appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for, I'll be in touch.
Thanks so much.
All right.
It's a great idea, really
Thank you.
thoughtful.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, the next thing on our, agenda is special exception permit application from the Friends of West Hampton Ambulance. They've, put in an application for the electronic sign. And, as part of that application, it's automatically a special exception, so that comes before the board. And as you know, the fire department is in the process also. I didn't want to hold up the ambulance, pending the fire department, so I think we could work both applications at the same time. Is there a representative of the ambulance here? Oh, good. Hi. It's, the special exception is part of the code, and your application is complying with our code requirements.
Yes, I guess the original application was set back because the signage was too big. But
Right.
I have the additional, the updated drawings. I
Okay.
thought the sign company sent everything to you.
The building department has it, yes.
Okay.
So we're in possession of that.
Okay, so we're in compliance.
You're in compliance, and, it's one of the reasons we passed the code in the first place for, emergency services. So, I don't see any hurdles whatsoever to, granting, having a resolution on granting a special exception, unless one of the board members does, or our attorney, or Mr. Hammond, anything that comes to mind? No. No? Okay. So, thank you for coming. There's no controversy whatsoever. We'll have a resolution on the next board meeting approving, to have a vote on approving the special exception. That's next week, which is unusual that we're having a work session, then a regular session, because we have postponed it. So, so it should be on that.
If you have any questions for us, you can get in touch with us if you want to see, if there's any restrictions on, the woman from the sign company had said that sometimes there's restrictions on how often you can change your message. Or if there are any restrictions about that, you could send those to us.
We did discuss restrictions when we were developing the code, and came to an understanding with the fire department, and I'm sure you will understand as well that, none of the messages are to be political.
Oh, of course,
And none of them are to be, for-profit advertisements,
right,
that kind of thing.
right.
But it's strictly for emergency services.
Yes, and really
ambulance.
public service announcements that's gotta go on.
And
Health-related issues, like, you know, like the COVID thing
Right.
is,
blood
you know,
drive, things like that,
Right.
and in coordination, eventually, I anticipate the fire department will have one as well.
okay,
So there's some messaging that would be helpful to be coordinated between both signs, like road closures or something like
Right.
that, weather-related things. It's emergency service oriented only.
Right. well,
And if you're having training programs or something like that, all those kinds of things, it's kind of a common sense thing. I would say.
right.
Uh,
Well, anything we have questions about, we'd call and ask you guys.
Exactly. Where open communication is the best way to go. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else?
Forgot, this is the first one we did. We left it in there that the board has discretion if you want to send it to the ARB. We didn't anticipate that you typically would, but it would be, if you're gonna move to resolution, probably a law saying we waive that. or something.
Do you have a rendering of how the sign is going to be
You know what,
supported?
actually, I thought that there were gonna be drawings that would show it. These are really kind of computer generated. This just was about regarding the size, so that's really all it is.
The code covers this, excuse me, covers the size of the sign, you're complying with that part of the code. But as far as the supporting mechanism, whether it's posts or brick or a stone wall or whatever you're
I'll see
proposing.
if see if I can get a proposed picture of what they're planning on
what
putting
they're
up.
planning,
We'll
it
get
might
that
be
to you.
best, I think. What does the trustee, what do you think? You wanna have us maintain authority over that, or you wanna refer it to the?
I think if we can see it first,
See it first.
then we can make the decision to be okay with it or refer it if it's.
What you can do is if you have a rendering that you would have, that you have
I
in
would
mind,
assume the sign company does.
okay,
And
if you send it to me
okay,
right away before our meeting next week, I'll distribute it to the trustees, and if there are any concerns, we can address those. And if there are no concerns, we can pass a resolution with the rendering in mind, or,
That sounds good.
I will take care of that.
okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. The next thing on our agenda are special events, Give Your Core fundraiser, Mr. Hubbard. Thank you for your new map, and if you wanna go to the podium. I'm sorry, I didn't have the ambulance behind. Okay. We have discussed the fact that the windmill now is, and the fence is there, and it's, so you had to realign things a little bit.
Yeah, we basically just had to compress our site a little bit. It didn't really affect how the event will work. And it's really the inlet to inlet event. You know, Libby Core is just part of it. And the other part is, you know, the Dana Strong. So I sent you a map that just shows us a little bit more consolidated. Didn't really change that much. And so,
Accommodate them very easily. There's no impact on the windmill project. It's a weekend event. The windmill not working on it on the weekend. So I think it'll be fine. And you submitted the SLA waiver as well, so
Right.
within the confines of the event, we'll, within that resolution on October 3rd, next week, we'll have the authorization for me to sign that SLA waiver.
okay, great.
And last year, I noticed that in the space that they had more than enough space. It was, well laid out, but a lot of people there, but still more than enough. So I have no concerns about it being a little bit
Consolidated.
smaller from the
Right.
windmill. I think it's
I
fine.
think it may actually make it more intimate because
Yeah.
we're so spread
Feel
out.
less empty.
You know, there was a lot of empty space between the different
Yep.
vendors and everything. So I think it will be better, you know, since now we have a border that we have to stay to. So that's good.
Another thing that coincided, this is down on the bottom is of our agenda, is the chamber has requested that they move their October 12th event to October 13th. So you'll be having it the same day that we're potentially closing down Main Street and having a street fair, and they have a SLA waiver as well. So within the confines of the Main Street area, and then a separate one for.
And, you know, we may help each other, support each other, and just adds another dimension to that one day now. That's a big
Very
thing. So,
few people will go both days.
yeah,
But if
right.
it's on one day, I think you're gonna have a compounded
Yeah.
benefit.
I think it's better for the people attending, you know, the Main Street event
More
to
options.
have more options and to browse, to walk around. So I think it'll be good.
I agree. I don't see it as a conflict. It's enhancement.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other board member questions? Okay.
Well, thank you. All right.
No, thank you,
you.
Mr. Hubbard. All right. And the Chamber of Commerce Children's Halloween Party, do we have a representative of the chamber here? No. Okay, well, I assume that Halloween party is until the end of October, so we'll reach out to them, and if it's something not too elaborate and simple, just forward it to you all. And, That's usually not an issue. Okay. Next one, electric charging stations, and we have a representative here coming to give us a presentation. He thinks he can help us with our signage and Main Street parking and fix everything, so that'd be great.
Here,
Yeah, please,
I might we can move this one.
sure.
It plugged in.
And while he's setting up, I should mention that we have been approached, and I sent it out to the trustees, at Harbor House, or the landings rather. Landings, to move their charging stations that they have within their parking lot. They're offering to move their charging stations onto Mitchell and make it available to the public as well. So it's a nice idea. I think it would work well, but there are some legal matters and we've had hurdles that I think we would have to, wade through to achieve that.
Liability shot.
Well,
For
yeah,
covering
it should
assets,
be-
covering what,
Yeah.
not for vandalism.
Why? Yeah, we'll have to, we'll have to discuss that in conjunction with this, is what I'm saying. They have interplay. so-
Yeah, sure. I was hoping this first meeting would be more of a discussion, because I'm not quite sure exactly where we want to go with things, but I know the two topics that our meeting encompassed was both the EV chargers and a navigation application, which to me would come before signage, but can be used in conjunction. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Kevin Wood. You can see the name of my company is Parking and Mobility Consultants. And small piece of my background, I spent the first part of my professional life in PR and communications, which really bodes well for parking, since parking, if it's not communicated correctly, you get beat up a lot. In certain communities, in certain parking ecospheres, it's really important to have that down. So first thing I'll say is I really commented and commended the mayor when I met him, and I think this probably falls on everybody in this room. You have just exemplary signage and exemplary parking conditions. I've never seen a cleaner village in terms of the way things are notated, signage, and the way things are delineated, striping. So kudos to you. I really took notice of that, because when I see a lot of different villages, the comparison was just completely very, very obvious to me. So the two topics that I thought we would talk about is EV. I have a partner in this particular business, Green Energy Technology. I do have, I should mention, I was the parking administrator for Port Jefferson Village for just about 8 years. I think the reason that's really important is I've seen it all. I've done it all, and it was a great time learning the business and industry of parking. And I should say, I didn't realize how rare it is, but it's a rare position to be a parking administrator on Long Island. I believe I was the only one. Maybe Denise could back that up, but I believe I was the only one. But in Port Jefferson, as busy as it is, 250,000 sessions in an 8-month period, it became very apparent that it was needed. And then I work with enforcement. I work with different departments, DPW, to make sure that we had the best parking ecosphere out there, and we did. And one of the things I'm very proud of, and I know this talk isn't about paid managed parking, but I was very proud of pre-pandemic, we brought paid parking to an 82% scan by phone adoption rate. So we moved people from meters to scan to park, and I'll just say that it's more efficient and it brought more revenue to the village. So anytime you want to ask me about that, you can. Staying here on the green energy technology. I think you have existing charge point chargers right now. Again, just a disclaimer, I have not done a survey of this village at all yet. Hopefully I will be able to do those types of things, but I know a little bit about the fact that you do have charge point chargers at this point. I personally installed 6 wires, 3 chargers in Port Jefferson, and ChargePoint started to be very frank, just lack a few things that I'm seeing out there that's a little bit better. I'll put it that politely. So, some of the questions I had that can be answered here or can be answered after this point, which is important for me to go forward, is like who is paying for that electricity now? Is it the village or is it a third party? How many kilowatts are used per month? Is the high of those kilowatt usage what you think it would be, June, July, and August? What is the cost to the public? What is that based on? Is it based on demand or is it based on competing villages? Is there a cost to monitoring, maintaining the dashboard? And if so, what is it? Is it commensurate with other villages? I don't believe you have level 3 chargers. The village itself, that's a must today, where we're going. I think you have 144 registered Teslas in this village and the surrounding village, much, much more. So that's just within this one zip code. And the other thing I like to do, and I did do in, for example, Port Jefferson Village, is white label some of the services. And what I mean by that is instead of pulling up to a charge point charger, you might pull up to something that says, "Welcome to West Hampton Beach EV Chargers," and it has the logo on the chargers. And I just think, again, my PR and communications background just kind of, to me, that brings up a little bit more trust to the potential customer. Um, Green Energy Technology is responsible for the chargers you now see in Southampton. Here's a few pictures of those installs as they sit, and they're all level 3 and level 2 chargers there. This would be an example, although a somewhat crude example, of white labeling a charger such that it would have the logo of the village within the charger itself. We could certainly do that on future chargers. So comparing, as an example, the net payout in Southampton was $1,225. And I think that has to do with some of the questions I had on the first slide. There's an examination that needs to happen, and I'm more than happy to do that, but I don't have that information, so I can't speak to it. I think you have an opportunity to make more money in your charging, and I think you have an opportunity to have these chargers used a lot more than they are.
Basically, the 4 chargers that we do have, we got a grant for, how long ago? That's,
Before my time.
oh,
I want to say 2006.
okay, so we did that with grant, and they are charge bearing, as you indicated. The village does pay the electric bill. The village does manipulate the cost. But at that point, we were just looking to break even. It was
If that, right?
Yeah.
If that, yeah.
money-making situation for us at all.
Intentionally, is that the intent?
That was the intent initially.
Yep.
And I'm not sure which direction, if that'll change or not, that's up to the board.
So that comparison and contrast, I think, needs to happen,
Well,
even if you don't make a move.
It was a long time ago comparatively. I mean, at that time, there were almost no Teslas on the road, almost near none compared to
It
now.
was-
So
it was
that's a,
a novel or a new approach, and we were trying things out. And to be honest, I think 2 of them are out of service now.
Well, that was,
And they are very slow. So
yes,
people don't use them.
yes.
It is time to not only upgrade those 4, but increase the availability. And the question is where?
Yeah, I was trying to be kind. We waited 6 months for one hose, one, if you will, EV charger to be fixed. That's unacceptable in any world.
Right. Well, the cost, we looked into the cost of having this one repaired, and it's exorbitant, and we feel it's best
Yeah.
to just wait and upgrade.
So next steps would be to do a deep dive into that historical data so we understand what we're dealing with, what the potential is, get some village feedback for the trustees and maybe even the public, of course, do some surveys, report back, and then meet back with my partner who does this day in, day out and provided the chargers for Southampton and maybe even do a call with them if that makes you feel comfortable. That would be the next steps in my mind.
That's what we have to do is, somebody has to survey it, there's something before us, else has to be done, before we're speculating what's gonna cost to do in what's area. So you have to forward,
Absolutely. So I do need to, be in touch with whoever you'd like me to be in touch with. Next step would be to get some of that information so I could be more intelligent about what to recommend for you. Okay.
And then there's the consulting service. You have a proposal?
Yes, I don't have a proposal tonight because I wanted to see what the
That's
the
fine.
temperature is
Yes.
for what you'd like me to perform.
Then I would be happy to district test the board. When you give it to me, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. The second subject was, in my mind, phase one of two. We talked about parking signs. Again, the village to me feels, and the building inspector is here, so I can ask this question. Is there a LED rule in the village? Yeah. So I don't know if signage that would, for example, give the number of spaces in a parking lot, which is typically something we do, would be allowed, if it'd be exempted, if it'd be an exception. I'd like to maybe hear a little bit about that first.
So, I mean, anything that's owned by the village is not subject to zoning. That being said, it's not great to have a code that prohibits people from doing something that we turn around and do. There is, part of the ban on internal illumination within signing was island-wide about dark sky compliance. There is, if there's a shielded backlit sign like the halo, there's a mechanism to have a sign that actually conforms, that does have lighting in it. It's just that the light, is completely shielded within channels or a box, so that the light, flashes to the back side of it, so it's not shooting up or out. So we have a couple of those signs within the village that is illuminated, but it's permitted, so if something had to be. Problem with purely digital is we had ambulance just here, fire district was doing that. That was something we recently passed for emergency service facilities for signage. I don't know, I mean,
I can show, again, I'm not here for signs today, but I can show examples where it can look quite nice, and you're talking, well, the signs have to change and show the number of spaces, so therefore it has to be digital. But I mean, you're talking about a space about this big within a, a well-designed, architecturally pleasing sign. The idea being driving down Main Street, seeing a sign that says additional parking here, 83 spaces available. So that's the idea behind it. What I came with today is even before that, since we're in such a digital world, every single person has a phone, and that is to give you a solution for a mobile compliant app or a mobile compliant parking navigation solution, which you can still drive down Main Street and get this data. This particular application would be a parking navigator. It would, as you can see here, customized completely to the village needs. Again, need that conversation about what would most be needed. Very easy to use. It's not actually an app, it's just mobile compliant. It's free to the user. It gets embedded in your website. It's interactive, meaning if somebody, and I'll show you that in a second, what that means, but if something changed, like there was some building going on in a parking lot, you took away 10 spaces, we can update that day. So it would be a digital representation of your parking and mobility. So it would also include shuttles. And again, I have to learn more of what you might have here. If there are shuttles or EV stations, all that would be mappable. So it's your village digitized. This is typically what it would look like. West Hampton Village Parking Navigator. There are three components to it: parking. Chad, hopefully you can see that. Parking. Sound like right? Okay. Parking, mobility and transportation, and EV and fuel locations. So if there was gas stations, that would also be included. These are just examples. You probably don't have rickshaws, but if you ever had one, you'd know where to pick it up. Designated curb management is really something in our industry that we're talking about all the time. And an example of that is like during the daytime, you have UPS and FedEx trucks pull into a certain location and that location only. They can go up and down Main Street, make their deliveries. It's known that that's what it's for. And after 6 o'clock, they double as valet spaces. So that's an idea we can bring forward to you too. We color these spaces differently and they're electronically monitored. We can even go as far as billing the FedEx truck to be in that location for a certain amount of time. I don't know if you know this, but FedEx paid $27 million to New York City in fines. And with this one change, they just completely eliminated their fines by having these designated drop zones. So curb management on Main Street, I think is going to be very important. But these categories will be digitized and people will be able to pull this up across the world or whenever they're in the village. So you can see I have 3 parking lots that are indicated by the P. Once they hit the red arrow, that flips up and goes away, and then they would see something like this. They would see a deep dive into what the parking lot offers, maybe what its name is, um, number of spaces, handicap spaces. If there's a violation, if this parking lot, for example, was not overnight parking and there was a violation associated with that, even put the violation fine amount there ahead of time. We would attach a 24-hour text line because people are always confused about parking. It's just one of those topics. And we'd be able to have somebody text 11:30 at night and get an immediate answer. We can use AI to do that and give people immediate answers. And that's fantastic because you won't see that information on web pages. And if you do, it's usually outdated. So what you're looking on the left is that collapses, and then you see the information you need to see and drill down into the parking lot you want to learn about. We can attach the number of spaces available, and that's where it gets a little more costly because we put sensors into the parking lot that monitors how many spaces are available. So if this parking lot had 44 spaces, you would know ahead of time, even before you got to the parking lot. You could be home and see, hey, there's 10 spaces available. And by the time you get there, that would change as well. But that would be the concatenation of those two theories, right? The two phases, if you will, of parking information. This one is I think this one should come first, the actual digitization of the parking ecosphere here. So the next steps here would be, to review a formal proposal for myself. I would, do some surveys, some feedback, again, from the public and really understand the ecosphere of parking here. Throw out a draft to you and final approval. We can have the actual parking navigating app done within 90 days of agreement. So you'd be off and going for January 1st. But it's a pretty deep dive. It's pretty detailed. This would be a dedicated, in other words, this wouldn't talk about businesses. This would be just parking and mobility. It would be dedicated to that. There would be a direct link to it. It would also be embedded in the page itself. And you could, at your option, add QR codes to your existing signs. So you're not really messing things up too much. You can put a QR code there and people get the information they need on the parking in the village. And because, like I said, my background, we would cover the press and PR. That I think you'd be one of the first villages that would enjoy something this deep and this robust. So I think would make a big deal out of it. And that's all I have on that. And I'll take questions.
What, other than a little bit of press and PR, how do we ensure that the 20,000 or so people that are coming in here know
Yep.
that this is available?
Yeah, so a few things. Businesses are by far the best way to do this. So my company typically interfaces with businesses all the time to let them know about this new parking navigation solution. They're going to be happy about that. There's no cost to them at all, and they're going to tell their customers, and we'll have little cards made up that could actually go into, I don't know if you have information kiosks that could possibly be on that. And the cards can go into businesses. And of course, whatever, do you have a communication that goes out to all residents? Or, I mean, yeah. Well, it's more visitors. They wouldn't even get the message anyway. You're a big,
That's stock addresses. Right.
yeah. So I mean, do you know what percentage of people on any given Saturday on in the summer are residents as opposed to visitors?
I'll take a stab, but say 96% visitors.
Visitors, right. So this communication that we're speaking about doesn't even matter. So in those terms, 'cause they're not going to interface with the Chamber of Commerce real time. So the best way is through the businesses on Main Street and through additions to signage. And again, I'm well aware of the look that your village has, so I want to be, you know, very sensitive to the way we do that. But there's definitely a way to do that. As simple as a website, to be honest.
That's something. I think the best thing would be the parking side, but no parking, have that little thing, you take your phone out, snap it.
Yeah.
And then you access.
Absolutely.
That would probably be
Absolutely.
The communication is what we're really lacking, and we have a parking. The number of spaces is great for once people know that even parking lots even exist.
That's right.
We have a parking lot that I would say almost everyone that's a visitor doesn't even know exists.
North or south side?
It's on the north side, right behind the fire
Yeah,
department.
over the charging station.
It's what's, Matt, maybe 70, 80 spaces.
No, it's behind this.
60 feet.
60.
Yeah.
But I've witnessed people fighting over parking spaces in one parking lot on a Friday in the summer,
Must drive you nuts.
and 0 cars in that other parking lot, not far away.
So the very obvious and very simple thing is to you know, put the QR code and or the website there to direct people to it, and it could just say additional parking, scan here. That's all it needs to say. Again, in Port Jefferson, we have people scanning 250,000 times to pay for parking, so they they would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, land of entitlement. People don't wanna, huh?
Yeah, right, right. You know, we would even have you know, people in the lots the first week or two this is out, letting people know that's in the middle of the summer. That would be a good thing to do. Maybe your staff can do that as well.
Bad idea. Open it up. Make it-
More than happy to help.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, so you'll be in touch and then I'll distribute things and we'll evolve this.
That sounds good.
Okay?
Okay, thanks for your time.
Thank you. No mas, tables and chairs, outdoor dining. Do we have a representative? Oh, good. Hi.
Hi guys, please bear with me. Usually when I stand up and talk to a crowd, I have a margarita in me. Yes,
Did you bring any?
you know, go down the street after this, we can open the kitchen up. Open the kitchen up for you guys. Okay, so, before we begin, we did close for the season. So I can show you guys kind of what we had intended, what we want to do, what we plan on doing next year. Just due to construction and getting into the place and everything like that, the season just came to a rapid end. So yeah.
And that's new of the past day or two, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just made that decision on Monday.
Yeah, we had been talking about it and trying to figure out what made the most sense. We were getting a good following, and I know we've talked a little bit about it, but we just felt that it made sense to see it get back in April. And then the goal is for next year to stay open through the entire year. But still, we wanted to come in and just meet everybody and also kind of go through it so that when we revisit this next season, we've already had this initial conversation and gave some visuals so that it's not something new, but more so something that we can revisit and already maybe be in a place where it can move along and not be too many unanswered questions.
That's a good thing that you're introducing the concept to us now. Another thing that's coincidentally happening is on October 3rd, this coming meeting next week, we're having a public hearing and we are changing the code, the outdoor seating and dining code, or amending it. So any application, and I assuming that goes the way I think it will pass the new code, then the application we would receive and it would comply with the new code and go through the process with the new code in place. So, because to be honest, we had quite a bit of controversy previously with the outdoor dining and seating code. So we're trying to fix that. And the renewals, if it should be a very easy process. And the new application should be quickly reviewed and taken care of. So basically, you're closing for this season. Unfortunately, we didn't do anything for you this season, but next season will come under the new code, and we can absolutely take a look at it then.
Great, and so this initial application that we put in was really just for our front seating. And then next season, we wanted to talk about the rear seating that is joint with like the Haskells and that area. So we know that that would be a different conversation anyway, but we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to give you the visuals for the front seating. And what we were able to just kind of mock up to show you.
Basically, it all does have to comply with the Board of Health seating capacity where you have and so on and so forth. So, and all of their regulations, we will not supersede their regulations at all. In other words, we won't grant more seating than you're allowed under their regulations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I can. Sorry, guys, I'm a little short. Okay, so this was kind of just what we came up with in August, since we opened, I think August 3rd was our first day. The barrier, of course, it's not loading. The barrier that is around it, we actually want to get custom ones, like Goldberg's has, with our logo on it, the black and white, to still stay within code. And then I think we are now, if I recall right, approved for the 3 tables, 6 seats. And then we would like to, so we have a letter from Bruce next door, and he gave us permission to use like this little walkway as extra seating, and I feel like we can put 2 more tables in there, so that's just the additional seating that we wanted to request for the front.
That would be a legal question. I know another restaurant leased neighboring property, and then they had to go through quite a bit of legal options and wranglings and things to get it so that it would apply to their seating and so on and so forth.
Is that the same for seasonal as
That's
permanent
that's
site plan?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Do they want to put it on private property or they want to put it on public?
Private.
I think it's
Public property
Yeah,
in front
public
of private property.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
combination.
it's a combination thing. Right. Even those site plan modification. The different with this.
Yeah, I don't know that that is actually,
You're not contemplating on the site plan, whereas.
I know that that building to the west, they have roughly 6 feet front, that's their property, that's ours. But I'm not sure about the alley, if the alley is part of Mrs. Cat's property or part of the 605 Main. I don't remember if it's, the alley you think is off.
All of those are.
so
I have to look at it.
the alley basically has the architect's office next door. It has all their equipment in there, so like their AC units kind of thing. There's no walkthrough really. It is, hold on. Yeah, it's just AC units. Originally, we were talking about, making it a walkway so that people can go to the back, but then, it came with like, it is also kind of private property in a way, and we didn't want just anyone to walk by and go to the back. So this was like the best solution we came up with. And then we open the space back in so that people can walk through if they wanted to go sit in the back. Yeah, walk through the restaurant.
I think that would have to go through a lot of legal review to make sure it's all,
For the 2 extra tables that we're requesting? Okay.
Past him signing a letter would have to be something that would be more than him, right? Because he submitted
well, there,
a letter of approval, but
there are, I would guess, insurance issues and liability issues and all those kinds of things come into play. So we just want to make sure that those are settled before we give any approval for that type of situation.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I would say if you don't need to go past property line, it gets a lot easier. I think it looks-
So what the property line is like over
I
here or
think it's very close to where the building is.
like right here?
Yeah, building
I
edge.
think it's actually where that line is right over there. And we're not allowed to move it out more
To
than,
leave at least one full,
Panel.
sidewalk panel.
Yes, you have to leave room for pedestrians, and there's a specific amount of room that has to be left.
Yeah.
this part was
Barrier.
already this measure, so.
Yes. Yeah. The barriers, to be honest, are a good idea, and we're encouraging those. So, that portion, I think,
Also
is.
due to our
Yes,
like,
SLA.
yeah, due to that, we have barricaded as well.
Yeah.
I wanna say, I don't know, it's going back a while, but I think your approval through the village is just for 8 seats on this property. I don't think you had 16.
so with the health department, we have 16 approved seats for them and for inside. So I know in Southampton with my other restaurant it works like this. I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but for every seat inside that's taken away, 2 seats are allowed outside. So we don't have any inside seating. So even if we just are allowed the 8, then 16, then we'll technically have 16 seats outside.
Yeah, I just got both COs.
We are coordinating with the health department, and we confirm that information, and we do go by their guidelines. So, yes.
Perfect.
Could you add a seat like closer to the barrier instead of going longer towards the other property?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't measured it, like stacking them.
And I think that because Haskell's does their tables this way, we were trying to keep it aesthetically pleasing to kind of go with it if we could utilize the space. And, you know, Bruce had mentioned to us before that he liked the idea, so he was open to it if he could help us with that. So I think that it's something we can revisit for sure. But we were trying to keep it so that it kind of went the same as the neighbor did, which is why we set it up this way and figured we'd have this conversation again, broach it now for next season and look at alternatives if it ends up not working.
Well, this has been a good introduction. Thank you for coming.
For
And
having us.
look forward to seeing.
Thank you very much, guys.
Forward to providing tacos.
Right.
Next season we'll be ready.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Maria Moore Park and Riverhead Road entrance signs that a couple of trustees or more have been working on. So
Well, okay, so I guess it came about because we had Rotary and Kiwanis and Knights of Columbus wanting to add to our billboard sign. So there's a few different options, I'm gonna say. One is really, do we need a billboard sign there? Or do we want a welcome to West Hampton Beach sign there and not have the billboard part there? But when we talk about the Rotary and the Kiwanis, Knights of Columbus, that could go on a billboard sign. There's also one by the high school. So right now, the DPW did a great job of just making one, which serves its purpose. And I reached out to Sign Design. they just made a general addition, which was adding the bottom of the Rotary signs. And our printer, not very clear, but, and just having like West Hampton Beach on top, they could say welcome to, it doesn't have to. But just adding, making it look a little bit better, than just a plain billboard sign. So we could put the location, we could just put welcome to West Hampton Beach on top, we could just put West Hampton Beach on top. We also came up with some other ideas of, the kind of material it would be, the lettering. You know, it was brought up, Ponquag Beach did a new sign that has some raised lettering. What would you call that?
Yeah, just like a
Yeah.
raised by like a pin on the back, just
Yeah.
black, yeah.
Which is kind of more, it's a more modern look, but it's a little cleaner. We could keep the seagulls. Everybody's likes the seagulls. Seagulls, sorry, seagulls. But it really is, you know, it's just an effort to, we could add the Rotary and Kiwanis and Knights of Columbus circles on the bottom. You know, just to simplify everything. Or do we change it to a welcome to West Hampton Beach sign in general? So,
I think we have to think about what we want out of it.
yes,
You know, what do we want to do? We want to welcome people. Do we want to give them information? It's on a pretty busy road, so unless
Right.
you're stopped at the light, you're not really much time to read, so maybe just more of a welcome.
yeah,
Also, I know aesthetics come into it too, but it's probably an opportunity for us to put a QR code onto our website, which is easily snappable even while moving. You get it, you hit it, and people don't know what they're gonna get, but see a QR code, scan it, and it
It
brings
also
them.
brings the parking situation.
Right, with our website, if it's all integrated, we want to direct as many people to our website as possible.
Traffic's
So,
backed up there in the summertime.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
opportunities to scan something.
Stoplight gives you the opportunity to read whatever
Yeah,
it is.
and even moving slowly, no one's going really that fast there for the most part.
Right.
With yellow light and traffic moving, so scanning something, you know, people, we've always posted little things, but I don't know if anyone really gets their information from that.
right,
Most people do, I think, walk a walk, it's not be there.
yeah,
Like I said, I think we should really work together with the parking thing, that whole thing right there, really what we need, tell people where you can go park, what you can do, and stuff like that, so it's gonna be in conjunction to that. So
Actually, maybe if
pretty
we,
much,
I'm sorry, if we have the QR code, maybe we could include some of what the posters are saying of performance at the back or whatever. We could include that as coming up.
I mean,
Yeah.
the QR code could go right to the community section of our website, which has all that, you know, people can back out and go around, but yeah, that's where we want to
So,
drive people.
so we're eliminating, the old fashioned and going to the new. I have trouble with that. but that's all right.
And also, it gives opportunity for everyone to post their events, if they post them on our community page on the website and people go to that, as opposed to people fighting over space for their posters. You know, that's always
or
been
their
an issue too.
logos, and
But-
just,
They-
we could
We've been
add
able to charge for that.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Still charge.
I think it's $30-something. I don't know.
Hey, we'll reduce the price and still make more money. $25, submit your event and it'll be on our website, QR code.
And the idea would be too with, any, like, let's say that we just did a welcome to West Hampton Beach sign. We were thinking of, you know, just changing the signage to match whatever we end up doing in the Maria Moore Park and just kind of keep things consistent. And
it should be uniform.
yes,
Yeah.
and a clean look. So everything should really be the same. So it should be a conversation we kind of have all together and do everything at the same time.
One design. we're
Yes.
using, it's
And
gonna
then that's gonna be our design.
How many welcome to West Hampton Beach signs do we have?
6.
6? Okay, so we should probably anticipate.
Yeah.
Redoing all.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so they can keep it on,
yeah.
Right.
right, maybe the seagull has to go.
Whatever.
Not the seagull, right?
Maybe the seagull's gotta go.
Yeah.
Bring it up to- bring
Now
it
you,
up to-
now you're hurting me. Drag me
I'll buy
into the
you-
modern
I'll
age,
buy
but
you
don't
one.
take away the seagull.
Modern seagull.
It is a modern
I understand the QR code is very helpful, but like, not worried that you're soliciting a driver to pick up their phone, right? And do this while they're.
What they do it.
But I think DOT actually has some strong regulations on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as distracting driving or.
Simple, right? Code, the sign is supposed to be very simple, minimal, email.
But even having a QR code maybe on twelve, not, but I'm saying the box.
Yeah.
People, I think more so for that with the QR code, as you said, on the website, it'd be fine. Yeah, not on the highway, but I don't think there should be a QR code that's issued as just the welcome signs, West Hampton Beach, and then they, things will pick up. That can happen.
I'm just.
I agree
Let
with
the
you.
lieutenant speak.
Give me notice.
I just worried that
Sit at the back, it's not.
someone does this and then bumps into someone, like, oh, sign.
I think it's a good idea and we should do it all at the same time, make everything uniform. We would have maybe a little bit of a landscape plan for around the sign so that that's all the same. And then we had talked about the entrance to the Greenmore Park and trying to figure out how to incorporate some artwork in there. And I reached out to the art teacher at the high school to kind of get an idea of what they would need to put the art in and how we could do that. Chris had some great ideas about a fence and a wall and so that's coming together.
I think we have to do it. Big.
Yes, it's a big
Don't put
project.
anything on each other, that's going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And the signage.
Yeah, Old Riverhead Road and Suffolk Highway, we don't own any land, right? It's county.
Oh, that's Suffolk County?
Yeah.
Oh, do we have permission for our current sign billboard?
If we're gonna get collaborative landscaping and such, we should probably communicate with them and ask them for permission.
Coincidentally, Mr. Teeman asked me recently, and I reached out again to Ann Welker about that intersection. Just last week, I've yet to hear a response.
I was with coincidentally, Charlie Park, Commissioner of Public Works from the county, and the director of highway for Suffolk County, actually today at a meeting, nothing to do with this, but exchange some information so that I can follow up on that as well. So they're aware as
The
well.
more inquiries
Yeah.
we have, the more, we'll pester them now. It's been a few years.
Yeah, quite a few, couple of administrations ago.
Well,
Different,
it was on tap when I first got elected. So
Yeah.
it's more than 14 years at least.
yeah, all the people working on it, and then they're all gone.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
dropped.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all.
That is all. Okay,
Just a
good.
new sign.
Next one is Ashley Beach. During the summer, I had a complaint from our manager, and he's right. I met with Matt, and we really do need to redo the storage facility underneath the bath facility. Some of the retaining walls are retaining sand and rotting out, so we're gonna take out the rotting out retaining wall, replace it with concrete. I think will be better. And also the Lashley plumbing for the entire bath facility. It's old rusty cast iron. We have leaks. We have faucets that leak. We're proposing redoing all of the plumbing. I think DPW can handle this.
Yeah,
That's as a winter project.
we've been band-aiding it for 25 years now.
Right. Whereas the building structure itself seems to be in pretty good shape. Roof, the walls, the internal bathroom fixtures and some of the tile and all that needs attention. Correct. So, any question on that from anybody?
I think it's needed.
Okay. The Rogers Beach concession equipment item came up because we had replaced the grill was gas, and we replaced it with electric. And our current, concessionee was very, very happy with the new piece of equipment. And then at one point, Matt mentioned that we have an old refrigerator there that would need replacing. But in speaking to her, if she is once again the concessionee next year, if she has no use for that refrigerator, she should just toss it. It was something that was donated, or it came with Coca-Cola as a promo refrigerator, so I think we can get rid of that. But maybe discussing things with our, whoever gets, we do have to put it out to bid again, I think. We only did a 1 year.
1 year, yeah.
But she seems interested in bidding on it again. So we should have this discussion. I'm just saying we should have this discussion early on before the season starts.
We pay all utilities then?
Yes,
We do.
yes.
So it's no difference between LP, gas, electric.
We don't have, LP there. You know, I mean,
That's
we don't
right.
have master propane.
Yeah.
Tanks and things around.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was a difference between utilities paid in terms of us upgrading items that would cost us more to operate. But that, there's no difference between the two. No.
But I do think it's beneficial to communicate on the desire to want to let it.
Yeah.
Some of those things are very difficult.
Yep.
We provide out, you know, the piece that we're on, the manufacturer that made the old grill. And I just think.
Is there anything else we can do to winterize stuff like that, wrap them or anything that might help?
I'm not sure if they'll get seasoned, then they will. Did have clean company come in when we operated it.
Yeah.
And it was a really good job. Everything, all the waters are all these little valves are blown out. It's not a insulated building.
Yeah.
But
They're not really exposed to elements.
the salt air does come through the building often, so like the things on the refrigerator. Right.
I'm just wondering if we start doing that.
The concession air, or if we did request, you know, maybe upgrading the two deep fryers and maybe another some of the refrigerators that we had mentioned going back and forth. So, you know, I had asked her for a list, and she gave me like a little brief list of things that should be probably replaced.
It's tricky, you know, with a 1 year contract.
Right.
You know, we've talked with many people who are interested over the years with very different menu ideas.
Yes.
And, you know, we can spend some money on this or that item, and for all we know, the next year, the winning bidder is not using deep fryers or, so. I don't know if there's not an easy answer, I'm just making a
She
statement.
seemed ecstatic about the new electric grill and wasn't so concerned about the deep fryer because
Right.
of menu like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know, so,
Exactly. Then you might have the complete opposite with someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
The
and
electric, she also mentioned it's a lot cooler, you know, the actual building is cooler because it's not more constant, you know, open flame.
Flames.
Yeah, and it,
Yeah.
it's safer too.
I would imagine, you know, it's been on, it's been on.
I don't like the sound of flames. Concession.
No, they're lighting.
But we can, once we put it out to bid, get another award to bid, then we can have a conversation. They take care of it completely. Sorry,
When is that going to be?
usually we try and put it out to bid like in January. Yeah.
Past few years, we've had a lot of trouble finding interested
Right.
bidders.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like to the point where if someone put a bid in, they had it.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it.
Too big. Could be a good thing.
There's a lot of potential. I think.
The most common thing I've heard from potential bidders is that they're so subject to weather. Some of the bidders said we want a 2 or 3 year contract so that at least if we have a bad season from weather, we can potentially make it up with a better season. And then some of them have wanted to sell a lot of other items other than food, which, you know, we've talked about doing village stuff, but beyond that, you know, we don't want to compete with other businesses in town.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to sell like, you know, surfboards and stuff and surf shopping. So,
We did 2 years. Didn't we do 2 years the first time?
but we did a two,
We didn't
it
want
was
to
an
do 3
option.
years just in case of
You
it.
know, no,
It was.
the first year, and then.
And they didn't make it
Yeah,
2 years.
they didn't make it.
Yeah.
But this new person, they want 2 years.
I'd have to look at the contract. I don't, to be honest, I don't remember. I think she has the option for. the
Two
second
ago was, they were looking for 3, we settled on 2, but you remember that it didn't get, I don't know if Steve remembers this, you found it, that it didn't get signed as 2. Their letter of intent said they wanted 2, and I think we kind of were open to
We
it,
did the one,
and then we just did 1.
and they didn't want the second.
And they wanted to actually sub it out for the second year until we found out they didn't even have a signed contract for 2. Right. So, anyway.
Yeah, until we had. Like, Ori was getting someone that didn't do the job for 3 years. And we wouldn't have, you know, we have to be, the residents would try to, and schools would.
Right. Okay.
Anything else on the margin feature? Anybody?
Special event fees, if you recall, we passed our new code. And I also in correlation with that, I had the special event fee analysis sheet that I would like to start using and start using the percentages that we are expressed in that analysis sheet. And also at the most recent, we had the occasion to consider raising the special event fees for larger events. The deposit, refundable deposit for $1,000 for the larger events and keep it at 500 for the smaller events. Yep. So if we all agree on a resolution on that, adopting those items, and then we can pass it at the October 3rd meeting, and that'll be in place for next season's special events.
Yep. It's good.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. So it's the larger events, meaning Great Lawn.
We had, you had written it down, yeah, you outlined it.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Right. And it's a refundable deposit, so, because with our one incident, the 500 that we all cover our expenses.
And that was a large event, relatively.
Yes.
So if it was a small event, it wouldn't have been that costly, I don't think, so it's still covered.
What are you talking about on the side of the?
Rob asked if we should, possibly raise the rates higher than now, because again, it is refundable. We're just asking, it's significant, I have leverage.
We have DPW on a Saturday and Sunday going out time and a half. How much would it cost us to go clean up this mess because they need it there? And all of that might cost us, especially for a larger event.
Right, that was a pretty large event, 800 or so,
So it was a pretty large mess.
Yeah.
But we have 3 or 4 guys out there.
that's what, that's the number, that's the first time we had that happen. Right, in my time.
It's not a.
It's giant. But we'll keep an eye on it. We can always change it by, this is by resolution, so if there's a big issue, we'll definitely change it as well, I think, yeah. Okay. Police department training, Leaf has asked. And if LP was gonna be here, I guess. He's coming back. Okay, for new officers, we're up to you. Yeah, for level leadership workshop, Geller, and it's for accreditation, and it's the UN level. What's the one for? This is mid-level leadership workshop. accreditation program training, that's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I sent it out to all the trustees. And, just what, is there any further questions for to have? Anything? All good? Okay, so those resolutions for that will be in the next meeting as well. Okay. I also sent out to the trustees a proposal for electric service for special events to be available. We're putting in electric service for the windmill. And at the same time, I think it'd be a good idea to have an extra panel that any special event could potentially plug into for use of electric service. Of course, we charge for it
Separate meeting,
as separate and.
that's right, we can just take it, look at both.
Right.
Well, are we gonna actually manually take a reading?
We couldn't, because the meter will be right there for the windmill. And the windmill won't be using any electricity except for, night lighting, I guess. That's about it. That'll be pretty predictable.
That'd be the same. I think if these are flat.
Flat.
It would probably make more sense. Like,
We know the average of what people can pull off of it if it's for one night. Ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine being that much usage for the event.
Right.
It's pretty tedious to go read it, then you potentially have people arguing.
Into the bill, it's.
Yeah.
Depends what the bill is. If it's high, then we would reevaluate.
Yeah, like waiter, we can just up our flat fee then. You know, I still think flat fee is the way to go.
At this point, for like, Monday night movies, the, library plugs into that electric there. And we don't charge for that at all. But that's minimal.
That's gonna be more electricity too, because the other side of the village, the very long is already.
Yes, this will be an isolated meter for the windmill and this this
I
particular.
think it overly complicates things to read it.
And it's, for $2,430 to get this, so. Any problems with the resolution on that? 2,430? Okay. If that's it'll be a change order for windmill contract. Yeah. It's a windmill contract.
Great.
Back to that training real quick.
Yes.
So the accreditation training in November. Do you have the one for October?
Yeah, you have that. Oh,
I only have the leadership workshop in Albany.
yeah, okay, you got that.
Yeah.
Sure.
okay, so we'll have both, yeah, okay. Right. Good. And the last thing on our regular agenda is the chamber has requested to change their actual date to their rain date. And I've already spoken to the lieutenant, he said that won't be a problem for police coverage. I'm hoping it won't be an issue for DPW. So both the events, both Chamber Festival event and the Livery Corps event will be on the same day.
That's great.
I think it's better. As long as both.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. All good? Terrific. All right, anything else from the board? Okay, we have a scheduled executive session for contractual and personnel items. So, I think we should adjourn downstairs, that one, okay, sure.
Open up the meeting.
Yeah, need a motion to go into executive session. Motion meeting. Yeah.
Motion to go into executive session.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, and thank everyone for coming.